Greetings, everybody. Greetings to Florida companies and exporters, trade and business development managers. Greetings to the Sunshine State. We hope you're all well today. Thank you all so much for joining us today to talk about the Florida Online Global Programs and Grants. And today we're going to be really focusing in on online marketing and the localized websites that go with it. Let's first, while the last of you are logging on, I'm just going to start by, I think, introducing ourselves, if I can get my mouse to work properly, and introducing ourselves. Hello, mouse, where are you? There we go. Let's introduce ourselves. So first of all, my name is Susanna Hardy, and I'm Chief Content Officer at IBT Online. I'm delighted to be here. So Chief Content Officer means also that I spend a lot of time looking at search engine optimization, keywords, but also the best content for your websites. I'm really delighted and pleased to be joined today by my colleague Samantha Sofici. I'm sure Samantha is known by many of you already. She's based in Florida and is our business development manager there, and it's really a great source. There she is, a great source for anyone looking to have information on online business development tools. We're really pleased and delighted to have Michael Schiffauer with us today. Hi, Mike. And as Vice President of International Trade and Field Operations for Florida and the Economic Development Agency for the state. He's going to be here today to tell us a bit about what the state is doing to help Florida companies navigate these difficult times. There's grants and funding available, notably to support these kind of innovative business solutions like websites and online marketing. We are especially pleased, delighted, proud to have Amber Rapinski coming with us today, National Marketing, Online Marketing Specialist for AMSOIL. Hi there, Amber. Amber is going to talk to us today about her experiences in the company, how AMSOIL used online marketing in its international markets and such. And she is someone who has a lot of experience and is not just a digital native, but really internationally minded, internationally focused, a lot of experience in that. Just a quick word also about us, the company, just very quickly. We're IBT Online. IBT stands for International Business and Technologies. We are a US company, and we are totally focused on supplying online business development tools for our clients to work internationally and to grow their business internationally. Today, we have divided up our webinar into 6 sections, and it's a very, very full webinar today. We're going to start off with Michael telling us a bit about Florida business and what the Enterprise Florida has for Florida companies today. And then we're going to talk a little bit about why we think Florida exporters need international online marketing and then Amber's going to talk to us about how she has used online marketing as a case study. And we'll talk about some of the essentials to use them, and then some very, very specific, pragmatic helping hands for Florida SMEs. So with that, and we're really bang on time. I can see the last of you have just finally logged on. Thank you so much. We have a great audience today, by the way. Oh, almost forgot to say, at the end, there's some Q&A. Please drop your questions into the chat box. We're looking forward to answering them. And it looks like we've got great attendance and a great selection of companies joining us today. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Michael Schiffauer to talk to us about Enterprise Florida International and the Florida business for Florida businesses. Michael?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Again, I'm Mike Schiffauer. I'm Vice President of International Trade and Operations with Enterprise Florida, Florida's official trade development organization based in Orlando. In my brief presentation, I will quickly review our international export assistance services. Primarily, I'll feature our newest virtual trade show programs, international trade show programs, and wrap up with providing the contact information for our regional trade office managers we have statewide. Next slide. So starting off, we have an array of export assistance services that are available to Florida companies. They start by export counseling, providing export counseling. We have 6 regional offices located in the various cities of Coral Gables and Boca Raton, Tampa, Jacksonville, Pensacola, and Orlando. Each of these offices have trade managers that are more or less the account representatives for companies within the region that they can go to tap into all of these programs and services. Export counseling is first and foremost what we do. It's a free service, and we'll work with your company to help your company to look at international markets and grow your sales internationally successfully. We also have a monthly newsletter that is something we send out monthly to roughly about 14,000 companies throughout the state. It provides an array of information on the various programs and events that we're involved in, along with other organizations, other trade partners. We also do provide market analysis and trade statistics, much of which is on our website. You can find it by going to www.enterpriseflorida.com. There's a wealth of information, trade statistics, various market research that you can find there. We also do educational seminars, workshops, webinars. Most of those are how to export or the basics of exporting, or it might be something more specific, such as what you're today, which is learning more about web marketing internationally. In addition to that, we do for some companies that really need a roadmap for developing their business overseas, we have partnered with the Small Business Development Centers to implement a program called the Export Marketing Plan program. We can work with you to develop customized export marketing plans. I mean, this is important for companies that are sometimes overwhelmed with 200 plus countries. They don't know which is the top markets that they should focus on. So this plan actually works with you to narrow it down to a top 10 countries, helps you with export strategies to enter those markets, and then helps you to tap into resources to make the connections in those markets and be successful. So it's a very good program. It's also covered by a grant. So typically companies typically apply for this program, and the most they have out of pocket is about $500. So it's very inexpensive. The total value of the export marketing plan is roughly about $8,000. We also do international trade shows where we develop Florida pavilions. We do these in multiple industry sectors throughout the world, and many of which right now are being impacted by COVID. So a lot of these bricks and mortar shows are either being canceled or postponed. So at this point right now, many of those are not going to actually happen between now and potentially the end of the year. So we've developed some additional programs, which I'll talk to you about in the next slide. So trade shows, so once we start to do trade shows, people are flying again, traveling internationally. We'll be implementing those trade shows throughout the world. We also do trade missions. Again, it's impacted by the travel issues that we're facing right now. Those are trade missions or matchmaking events that we do in various countries. They're very effective and something that we can work with you on in the future to help you go into certain markets and make the connections you need directly in that country. We also have a network of international offices, 14, that can provide support and services, which I'll talk about in just a minute. We also provide certificates of free sale for those companies in the nutraceutical, food brokerage, and the medical device industry. We can provide you with the certificates of free sale so that you can register your product in those markets and actually ship your products on with the sales that is generated. Next slide. Okay, the newest programs that we're really proud to talk to you about and really go into some detail on is the virtual international trade programs. First and foremost is our global website localization program that we do in conjunction with IBT. This is where you can apply to have 2 localized websites in a international market created for you that is completely immersive. I mean, it brings you into a market and makes you more localized. This is important because sometimes when your people in a certain market are looking for your products, they can't find you because you can't be found in some markets because of the way they have got their domain system set up, the way they have their search engine set up. So IBT has developed with Enterprise Florida a very good program that helps you to localize your business in those markets so people can find you and you can generate business. With that program, it's roughly a $12,000 cost, and we provide a grant for those companies that apply and are qualified that covers $8,000 of that cost. So really your out of pocket's about $4,000. So that makes it very attainable for companies in Florida to use this vehicle to help them to generate additional business and grow the business in those markets. So it's a very effective program, very helpful. And as many of you know, and we've done this in the past, we've shopped similar kind of programs. Nobody comes close to this website localization program that IBT is providing. When you look at the total takeaways of what you get for the money, it's outstanding. So very good program. The new program that we've launched is the virtual business matchmaking service that works with our international offices. We've rolled it out in Europe, and we're planning to roll it out in July with Canada and Mexico. We'll start to roll it out to other markets shortly thereafter. What that does is you can apply for having business matchmaking meetings with companies virtually. They're pre-qualified to be companies that you're interested in. They want to do business with you, and you have one-on-one meetings, roughly 5 of those minimum. In this service, the cost is roughly $2,500. There's a grant that you can apply for that'll pay 100% of that. You can do one at a time. We've also partnered with the U.S. Department of Commerce. They have a similar program called the IPS Plus. It's a virtual introduction program too, so you can either work directly through the U.S. Department of Commerce and use that program in markets that we don't have international offices, or you can contact us and we'll work with you to use the service in markets where we have country offices. So a very good program, very new, and we've launched it about 3-4 weeks ago, and it's showing tremendous success. In addition to that, we have the Virtual International Trade Shows Grant Program. Many of the bricks and mortar shows that have been canceled or postponed internationally are moving towards virtual trade shows. There's less in cost in general. There's some types of matchmaking mechanisms included. So what we're doing is we're working with our industry to help them to participate in those virtual shows. The costs range anywhere from really pretty reasonable. I mean, $560, $500, upward to $8,000, depending on the show. So we're providing grants to Florida companies who qualify that will cover up to $2,500 of that virtual trade show cost. So it's another very good program that's really kind of helping us to, post COVID, now in the economic recovery, to actually help you to generate business as we move into full recovery, hopefully in the near future. So each of these programs are grant supported. They're very effective and can help you right now to continue to grow business in this environment. Next slide. This slide gives you an idea of where we have regional offices and the territory in which they serve. I mentioned our Coral Gables office. You can see that they handle the Miami-Dade community, as well as over to the West Coast there with Collier and Lee counties. You can see the Boca office, and you can see the various territories that each of our managers here, cover. So if you're in Polk County, you would then contact our Orlando office. That would be Mike Cooney. Or if you're in Manatee County, you would contact our Tampa office, which would be Joseph Bell. Next slide. Here is the contact information for all of you. Please reach out to any of these managers that are appropriate to where you're located. They're very helpful. They're your account representative with Enterprise Florida. They can fast track you into all the programs and services that we have. They can work with you with the website localization program to get you in contact with Samantha directly if you need that. and then work with you to apply for the grant that will cover the cost. Any of these additional virtual business matchmaking or virtual international trade show programs, they can fast track you in all those. I highly recommend you reaching out to each and every one of these managers as appropriate. Next slide. So again, I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Please contact us for assistance and have a great day. Thank you.
Michael, thank you so much. Right, let's also now turn to some of the other online discussion. Why we sort of put this question out there. Why do exporters need international marketing? Now, actually, this webinar is part of 2 webinars. We did a first webinar on international websites and why exporters need international localized websites. Now we're going to talk more about marketing. This first section is very short. I'm just going to recap some of those core elements that we talked about in the first webinar, just as a quick reminder. Globally, across the world, we're about 7.5 billion people. 60% of us, 4.5 billion people, are plugged in. And when we talk about plugged in, we don't just mean that they go on once a month. The average use of the internet is nearly 7 hours a day. So you've got 4.5 billion people clicking on the internet for nearly 7 hours a day. Those numbers, by the way, have been going up since the pandemic. Now, this slide here dates from January 2020, but we know there's actually increased even more since then. And if you're looking at these huge numbers, another 7% growth in 2019, that's nearly 300 million people joining the internet on just that 1 year. So this is not something that's, at a mature level. It's still very much growing. One of the key things they're doing is communicating. So we said 4.5 billion people online, 3.8 billion of them are communicating through social media. If you're a small, medium-sized company, we believe strongly that this is a good thing for you, that this is good news. This should not be daunting. This is like, yay, now I know exactly where my next client is coming from and how I can reach them. Because all your clients, all your prospects are all online. And they're all communicating. They're all on social media or through the web. So you can communicate with them no matter where they are. One thing about anything that's on the web, whether it's your website or any kind of marketing you do, it is always, always customer-centric. So it means that the customer or the searcher is at the heart of any kind of action. So that they, in a sense, it's really an empowerment of that customer. They can reach out in a different way. They can reach out to other customers too. They can reach out to friends, other customers to get referrals. They can reach out to competitors, suppliers, whoever they want to find out more about you. Your job as a sales and marketing executive, if you're in that field, is to influence all those little black arrows to make sure that your company is front of mind and perceived well, to build that long-term trust that you need for the buyer's journey. And remember this as a concept of this customer-centric. It's at the heart of localization. So we often get the question, well, if you ask the question, I've just built a great website for my company, my Florida company, how come I can't use my Florida home website? It's because of the way of this customer-centric, this searcher-centric feature in the web. So, for example, Google, if you're looking for your next prospect, your target market is Argentina, then you have to go on to Google Argentina. It's different from the google.com that you're using in Florida. The Google you're using in Florida is different from the Google that you would use in Canada or the UK or wherever. So that's why it's really important to make sure that your websites are localized, also that your international marketing is localized. Otherwise, you're pretty well invisible to that outside world. Google or the online marketing just doesn't find you relevant. You're not in the right language, you're not hosting rightly, you're not using the right keywords, you don't have the right digital compliance. There's lots that go into making a website and a marketing compliant and relevant to the local market. One of the other aspects we want to bring up on this webinar is that We believe websites and online marketing is probably one of the best ways you can have to prepare for the rebound. We don't know what shape that rebound is going to take, or how, or where, or when even, but we know that it's coming. There are a lot of signs of it already around. I'm just sharing this one particular one because I guess it amuses me. It's Hermès, the French luxury goods company, who opened their Guangzhou home store, flagship store in about 3 weeks ago, and they racked in, when I write down, $2.7 million in that first Saturday. And it was the social media triumph of the day. Everybody in China was posting pictures and retweeting, posting pictures of people in the Hermès shop. It was just seen as such an event. And again, I don't know where and how and when the rebound is, but getting the right tools for that rebound will involve increasing your online presence. And that's one of the things we want to talk about today. So I guess in answer of that quick question, why do Florida exporters need international online marketing? You need it because the world is online. Remember that 4.5 billion and that 3.8 billion online? It means that all of your clients, your future employees, they're all online. You can connect with them. You can engage with them. They can buy from you. And it is, in our view, the best way to prepare for the rebound. And with that, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Amber to talk about a case study about how exporters use online marketing. Amber, if you'd like to go through some of those slides with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so first, quick introduction to AMSOIL. We are a private U.S. company located all the way up north in Superior, Wisconsin. We, as I mentioned, are a private U.S. company, but we do have global reach and ambition. Our primary market is the U.S. and Canadian market, but about 10 years ago, we really had a vision to go more globally and think more large-term, large-scale projects, and to really work on our export side of our business. We produce synthetic motor oils, transmission fluids, all sorts of lubricants for anything from cars and trucks to motorcycles, over-the-road semi-trucks, all the way down to jet skis, ATV, UTV, stuff like that. Our route to market in the United States is through an independent dealer network. However, in our international markets, we have a little bit different approach. We sell via distributors, so we'll sell by container load or pallet load to a distributor in country, and then from there it is their responsibility to sell the products within their own country and within their own region. And as good partners to our customers, we try to help them as best they can adapt things locally along with their help. So today we are present in about 78 countries and with 75 distributors. A few distributors take care of a little bit more of a region. And as I mentioned, historically, we've really left our marketing into the hands of our distributors. We're at the time a smaller U.S. company. We could only do what we could do in the U.S., and we really put it on the distributors to learn and understand not only our products, but their own market as well. It had some great advantages to us at the time, but as we grew, we realized that we had really less control over our own brand, over our goals, over our name. We started to see some areas where distributors, they have the best interests in mind and they're trying their best, but our brand wasn't always represented the way we wanted it to. Just logo issues, stuff like that we really didn't have control over. So in 2016, senior leadership really decided that we wanted to get that control over our brand, and we really wanted to own it from the US and kind of push it more out into other countries as more of a help to our distributors. So that's kind of where we set forth to find a partner to help us really localize in some of our countries. We had a couple of goals. We really wanted to have some front-end product needs and the brand as far as awareness for both of those. We wanted to go digital and use tools like social media to not only educate future customers, but the public in general, to really have top of funnel awareness and push that brand to generate leads for our distributors, because our distributors are on the ground actually selling our products. So we wanted to really help them. Today we have multiple distributors in areas that we wanted to kind of manage and help all together. For example, Europe, we have, as you can see, the blue areas, we have several distributors in Europe. So we wanted to have kind of a regional website and presence in order to help as many as possible, and to give them guidelines as far as how they can manage and sell our brand. Our main website, AMSOIL.com, has just an overwhelming amount of pages, hundreds and hundreds of pages, literally about all of our products. And it was really overwhelming to our distributors. So we wanted to create a localized and more dialed in approach to give them a one-stop shop of the abridged version of what is AMSOIL, who is AMSOIL, what are our products, in order for them to kind of take the brand from there and help them. So for the distributors, the localized website is really the best sales tool that you can give them, especially if you can also back it up with the localized marketing. Thanks. So yeah, IBT has helped us in a number of ways with our online presence. First of all, we worked to actually build the sites with them. We basically provided them with some ideas, and they took our regular AMSOIL.com and they really were able to run with it and help us decide, what do customers in Latin America look for? What do customers in Australia look for? This example pictured here is for Latin America. Also important to note, for us being a US company and trying to do everything really on our own, it was difficult for us to discern what truly is the difference between what a customer in Mexico would want and a customer in Australia would want, for example. You really can't just do the same for everyone. It really is important to help us show the customer that we know you, we understand you, and we have products to fit your solution or your situation. Previously also, we had tried to do things all ourselves and have a website that was built and hosted in the US, and we translated a couple of things and thought that would be good to go, but it really is not just a matter of, if you build it, they will come. We really wanted to also help to promote our sites and use social media in order to have those expectations met, not only for AMSOIL, but also for our distributors as well. So this is just another example of one of the websites that IBT had worked with us with Latin America, with French. The French site is shown now on your screen, also in Europe in general. So websites these days really do need optimization, relevant content to your market and to your local markets, and then also regular updates to refresh it and keep it alive. You really need ideally marketing for each of your major regions and markets, and you also need to give it a little love and attention. For AMSOIL, it was difficult to do on our own. So again, in order to keep things fresh, to keep customers and potential customers coming back to look at our websites, it was important for us to be updating them. So here is an example of one of our kind of blog tactics that we use with IBT in order to attract customers and make things localized. Our blogs, we write them in the United States, and we have a whole list of them, and then each month IBT goes in and they search the ones that they believe will work the best per market and per individual. They will translate them and localize them and then have them hosted on each of our sites, and this one again is a Latin America example. It's great for us because although we as a brand do have a lot of content, as I mentioned before, it's really difficult for us to just use them as they are. And we're not experts on each of our 70 some countries. So it's really helpful to have IBT be able to help us with that and change these up and make them relevant to the end user in each country and in each market. So yeah, for Australia, they, were experiencing a very intense heat wave. So it was important to identify with that. That's just another example of how working with IBT, it's more of a dynamic experience. You see something that's happening in their market, and then they look through our blogs and decide, what's a way that we can identify with that and identify with our customers. Also for marketing, it's really always important to have objectives, whether you're marketing in the US or marketing globally. For us, some short-term objectives that we have, just as some examples, we are really focused on having distributor acquisition, so targeting distributors in Europe, for example. We really want to expand there and get some more distributors in more countries. We also have short and long-term objectives of not only exposing our brand to more people and providing that brand awareness, which is done through educational blogs. For example, this one from Latin America, just on their way to explain to the customers who we are and what we're doing. Another one of our goals is to get a lot of leads and end user customers to pass on to our distributors, because again, they're the ones on the ground selling our product. So it's really important for us as the parent brand to get everything that we can and provide that content to them and that those end user customers. So in this example, IBT had published a blog for us that was aimed at the Latin America market. As you can see, it's a very reactive market. They are great and very active on social media, something that we've really enjoyed seeing throughout the past few years with that. As you can see, we reached over 107,000 people within the first 5 days of this post on Facebook, which was awesome. And then, even more importantly, it provided us some eventual conversations with the interested potential customers, which again generated those leads for our local distributors, which ended up being just over 5,500 engagements. So that was really cool for us to see. It's also a really good opportunity to take a post like this and analytics after discussing with IBT, kind of what happened over the past month. We do have monthly check-in meetings with them. We could take a post like this and these analytics and then show our distributors in Latin America and say, posts like this got us a lot of attention. Perhaps in your own marketing strategy, you can incorporate more things on maintenance techniques for vehicles, for example, for this one. We can also share with them how many people that were really engaging with this, and then have a conversation with our direct customer, which is our distributor, and ask them, was that helpful for you? How did you find this post getting more leads versus one about motorcycles, for example? And it really creates that dialogue to not only help the distributors, but also show them that, we're in this together, we're helping you. And really our goal all throughout the world is to sell our products as a partnership with you. So basically, in conclusion, today's world, we really do need localization, and digital marketing is absolutely critical, especially if you're a smaller or even mid-sized, such as we are now, a US company that is trying to, increase your goals of export. It's really important to know the customer and not, rather than tell them, what they need or what US products they should need, really listen to them and help create content that shows them why you might need something and actually listen to them to solve a problem for them. Also, international marketing is absolutely critical for this too. As I mentioned, we had a website before that we translated and we thought, boom, we're done. And that wasn't the case. That localization and the consistent content updating, social media marketing really was critical into helping us, gain more customers at the top and the bottom of the funnel in order to have that conversion for our distributors. So if you are a company of really any size and you have international ambitions, I really encourage you, just from my experience working with IBT from the past 4 years, to really consider this seriously, because it's really helped us and helped our distributors. So, thanks.
Amber, thank you so much, also for the kind words, but most of all for your testimonials and sharing the experience. I would ask, though, that you stay on, because we've got a whole bunch of questions that just came in. So I think there's a lot of interest
absolutely.
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much. So we're going to talk now a little bit about online international marketing essentials. And maybe Samantha, if you want to talk us through this, Samantha?
Yes, I would be happy to. So we tend to divide online tools into interrelated sets, your website and your online marketing. There was a time when it was okay to just have a basic US core domestic website, and then you would post a blog every now and then, and you were pretty much good to go. Like you were on the first page of Google, and you didn't really have to do anything else. But now everybody and their mother has a website, so you have to support it with consistent SEO, search engine marketing, and social media marketing to keep the website relevant. So what this looks like internationally, when you're thinking about online marketing, the first thing you need to do is figure out your end goal. So if you start communicating with your clients and your prospects, what do you want them to do? For example, let's say you want to increase brand awareness in the market. So you start communicating on a social media platform, posting blogs, white papers, infographics, whatever. What does your reader do after reading the blog or the white paper? What's your call to action? Where does your reader go? In the past, we would have invited them to a specific office, maybe take them on a tour around a factory or a showroom, talk to them face to face. So now you have to think of your website as your digital real estate. That's where you're driving your traffic to. That's how they're going to get to know you and interact with you. So your US website has its own communication policy surrounding it, and drawing your US prospects to your US website, but the same goes for your international clients. So if you are trying to people in France, you want to do business in France, and you have a social media strategy and a search engine marketing strategy, you're going to be talking to those people, and you want to drive them to your French website, because that website will be dedicated to that market, and it'll speak to your French customers, prospects, whoever you're trying to. And those can be kind of like springboards to your US site, and they should really be interconnected. But what we really want to emphasize is that your international online marketing strategy needs to have its own kind of like digital real estate to go back to when they're trying to learn more about the company, and that would be your localized website. So you have to make sure you have localized websites first, and that's what our first webinar was about. And then the international online marketing, which is what we're going to focus on now. So the website can act like a springboard to have really clear goals, to really map out your buyer's journey, to really understand your buyer and what they're trying to do, so that they can go back to your localized website and learn more about you. So a localized website has a lot of components, and it's not just a translation, as Amber said. It's far from it. The key to remember is that it has to be customer centric, as Susanna mentioned earlier. So if you're targeting Mexico, you have to make sure your Mexican website has an MX rather than a .com. It's in Mexican Spanish, and all of these things will help you be found locally and understood locally. And this will eventually build the trust needed for that buyer's journey. But before we talk about buyer's journey, I think it's really important to think about buyer persona. And this is something that is so important. And we mentioned it in the website localization webinar, but it's really important to cover it now too, especially for your international online marketing strategy. So a buyer persona is a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer based on market research and real data about your existing customers. So having a buyer persona is very, very important. It allows you to make sure it's reaching out to the right person at the right time with the right message, saving yourself and a ton of time versus. And what's important to keep in mind is that you can, and you absolutely should, have different personas depending on who your ideal customers are. And it's especially true for your international buyer personas. But before we get into international buyer personas, a great example of a domestic buyer persona, a company called Zipcar. And if you take a look at their mission statement, they actually have their buyer persona in their mission statement. So somebody who is urban, educated, tech savvy, and environmentally conscious. And if you look at their Instagram feed, and here's just one example, you can tell that their Instagram feed completely feeds to who their buyer persona is. So look at this picture, it's two young people holding plants. They look like they love the environment. If you look at their backgrounds, it's definitely urban. It's not like they're in a rural environment. So Zipcar is really forming these social media posts completely for their buyer persona. Now taking a look at international buyer persona. So especially in the times that we're in today, international buyer personas can differ from domestic buyer persona. On this slide, there are questions that you should ask, like, are there multiple buyer personas for my export markets? How do they find me? What do they care about? How do they purchase from me? L'Oreal is a frequently cited company for how spot on they are with their international online marketing. And if you look at the picture and the text, this is L'Oreal assuring their US stylists that they're committed to support them while we're socially distancing ourselves. They know that the majority of their stylists are closed, and they also know that their stylists are either SMEs or they work for SMEs. So their post just shows their dedication to helping support what US views as important, which is support for SMEs. Next is Australia, and the message is completely different. If you take a look at their messaging and this picture, there is no mention of COVID-19, of coronavirus, of social distancing, but in a focus on climate. And this is probably due to the horrible fires that Australia suffered just a few months ago. And that is what L'Oreal knows is important for their Australian buyer persona. And then in the last example, L'Oreal Brazil is demonstrating to their Brazilian customers that they're doing their part to help the people of Brazil by producing hand sanitizer, which is something that they don't normally produce. So as you can see here, each buyer persona is clearly different and their messaging is respectful of that. Now back to Susanna.
Thanks, Samantha. There's a lot of questions also about, can I get this webinar and so on. I'm going to go through the next bit quite quickly because we do want to leave some time, but I can assure you all you will get a copy of a recording of the webinar. So yes, to answer that question that's come in several times, you will get a recording of this, and that helps me justify going through the next bit quite quickly because we do have, we want to save some time for some questions at the end. So just a couple of the big essentials on online marketing. Obviously, organic search. Organic search is the one that you're sort of really, is the one that's free, is the one that people look for most of all. But note the important part here for the international side is that the organic search is going to be different in each market. And the reason for that, again, has to do with the way that the internet is structured. It'll be customer centric. So you might be hitting your target on organic search in your domestic market, but it's not the right keyword, it's not the right content, it's not the right backlinks, whatever it is, relevance, search engine, whatever it is not hitting the same criteria in your international markets. So you might not be ranking organically very well. Organic, excuse me, organic search is absolutely the end goal. It really establishes you as the authority in that subject, and is seen as the thing that you really want to aspire to. But we talk about it being free. It is not free. It takes a lot of expertise to make sure that you're ranking at the top. And that is what Amber was talking about earlier in terms of the time, of the quality of the content, of the keywords, of the blogs, of the communication that you need to make sure that you are staying front of mind to your prospects and your clients. Paid search, obviously, Samantha and I decided that a freestanding desk would be the most relevant paid search for in these times of working at home. Apparently, standing desks demand has gone through the roof in the last 3 months. So a paid search obviously is paid, and you're going to pay for those words. You can note the little ad sign means that those companies rank even above the organic search that have earned it. So they go above if you pay for it. beware, there are different keywords for different markets, which means that you make sure that your words are correct, otherwise you're paying Google for nothing. Paid search is a fantastic way for any kind of short-term boost. Let's say you're launching a new product, new distributor, or you just want to have a boost in sales. It's a great short-term boost. When I mentioned the right keywords, it's important even between languages, even between close markets. Let's say Colombia and Mexico, there are differences. US and Canada, there are differences. I chose one here between Brazil and Portugal because I think it's quite extreme. The word for train in Portuguese is either trem or comboio. And if you're using the wrong word in the wrong market, you are really, really putting yourself at a disadvantage. If you're using the word trem in Portugal, 2% of Portuguese in Portugal will look for you. No, it's the same search engine, Google in each case, same language, Portuguese, different keyword. And that's going to affect how you do your marketing, how you pay for your marketing, especially. One of the best combinations is therefore a sort of strategy of organic and paid, depending upon the strategy, the goals, and your timeline. And again, working with clients, you work out a longer term timeline, short-term goals, mid-term goals, and longer-term goals, and then work out which is working best for you between the organic and paid. So as I said earlier, a little bit of paid is a great way to start for your international markets when you get started, and longer term, the goal is to have the organic authority. I think I just wanted to mention as well in terms of essentials, communication is really how to form relationships online. And it's so important to make sure that you are reactive and that you respond to all likes, clicks, mentions, connections, comments, that you give it a personal feel as well, that you are a person, you're connecting to a person. Even if you're on the B2B side and you think, oh, it's just a B2B, it's not B to consumer, you're still connecting to a person. And therefore, it's always important to have that personal relationship that you can form through online marketing and communication. Amber mentioned briefly sort of defining goals and that one of the keys to any kind of longer term strategy and success in online marketing is to choose which exact key KPIs you have, and then to make sure that you're measuring them, that you're defining them closely and measuring them on a regular basis. And I guess for me, it's like sort of, what is it? Rinse, lather, repeat. Do it again and again and again on a regular basis. Right, that was a very quick whirlwind tour, but I hope I've left enough time for Samantha to talk about international online marketing and how it's used. Samantha?
Yes. Okay, so these next 3 slides are the top 3 export markets for Florida companies that are and they're just to emphasize that each market interacts with a bit differently, and you should keep that in mind when figuring out what your buyer personas need and how they communicate with you in each market. So I'm going to fly by these, but please know that we do have these infographics and case studies available on ibt.onl website, and they're for free and you can see them whenever you want. So Brazil, real quick, it's important to see that Brazil has the 3rd largest LinkedIn base and the 4th largest Facebook base, so they could be great platforms to reach customers or partners. Next is Canada, and it's important to note that YouTube is the #1 social media platform for Canada, and people spend about 25 minutes per visit, so a pretty significant amount of time. And then the 3rd export market is Mexico. And for Mexico, social media is a great place to start if you're looking to build brand awareness, because it's actually ranked number 7 in the world for the amount of time spent on social media, which is 3.2 hours a day. And it's actually right behind another Latin American country, Argentina. So now just taking a quick dive into each individual platform. So you not only have to understand the country and how they interact with social media and with search engines, but you also have to take into account each platform. So Facebook is an obvious first choice for many marketers, both domestically and internationally, because it's available in 101 languages. People spend an average of 35 minutes a day on the platform, and it has a huge audience of about 2 billion active users, making potential customers and partners and distributors all over the world just a little bit easier to reach. Next is YouTube. So YouTube is another huge social media platform that marketers absolutely need to use. Regardless of whether you're B2B or B2C, there is a place for YouTube videos. And something that a lot of people don't realize is how easy it is to use YouTube for your business, both domestically and internationally. And I mean, look at those stats. Second most visited website globally. Second largest search engine behind Google. 80% of the views are outside of the US, and it's available in 91 countries and 76 languages, but only 9% of US small businesses use it. So there's definitely a room for improvement. And nowadays, I know a lot of people have some concern about making YouTube videos and the process and the time and the money. But now with iPhones, you don't really need a huge production budget to make an impactful video. And once you have a video that you're really happy with, you can translate it, you can put some subtitles on it at the bottom, and boom, you can reach an even larger audience. So definitely keep that in mind when considering videos. Next is LinkedIn. And as many of you know, LinkedIn is important for professionals to connect throughout the US, but don't discount it for international marketing. The largest user base behind the US is in India, China, Brazil, the UK, France, and it's 3 times more effective than Facebook and Twitter for lead generation. So especially for those B2B businesses, LinkedIn is definitely a platform to consider. And COVID-19 has actually made LinkedIn even more relevant. An article came out in the Financial Times saying that people are posting more stuff on LinkedIn just to stay relevant, stay top of mind with potential prospects and partners. And the numbers absolutely back it up. LinkedIn shared that the number of conversations between members jumped 55% in March from the same time last year. And live broadcasts have also gone into absolute overdrive. Demand has more than tripled since February of this year, and the users are much more chatty on these broadcasts. The number of comments has surged 272%. So just keep in mind, in terms of B2B, you are still speaking to people on the other side of that business. So make sure to use LinkedIn to directly speak to those people and get to know your customers a little bit better and reach out to them through these social media platforms. Then lastly is Instagram. So unlike what most people think, Instagram is a great choice for businesses. Over 80% of Instagram users are following at least one business account, and 48% of Instagram users say that they've made a purchase because of a brand's video on the platform. It also has the highest engagement rate of all social media platforms, with 95 million posts and 4.2 billion likes per day, and users spend an average of 53 minutes a day on the app. I know, me personally, I have to put a limit on Instagram or else I'll spend too much time on it, and I pretty much hit that 20-minute cap every day. And one last thing to keep in mind for Instagram is that there's 3 different ways to post. So you have Instagram stories, Instagram TVs, and the normal posts, and each way has a different purpose. So your post should definitely differ, and your goals will differ depending on what way you decide to post on Instagram. Now handing back to Susanna, who will take a little bit of a deeper dive into marketing in China.
Thank you, Samantha. It's just not a deeper dive at all, just a really quick landscape, actually, given the time. But we wanted just to highlight that China has very much its totally different environment. So everything you know about Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, throw it out the window. China's got its own platform and its own giants. I guess if you have a reliance on YouTube, then you would look at Youku in China. WeChat is probably the end goal. WeChat accounts for roughly 30%, 35% of all internet time in China, and it really is sort of like a proxy for the internet in China alone. I wanted to highlight actually something else as well, which is just some of the differences that we see in new markets versus very established markets, what we call mobile first markets. And in this case, we've taken Indonesia, but Peru, Colombia, Indonesia, India, Thailand, these are all mobile first markets compared to established markets, the UK, France, Germany, which might be very different reactions. So in this case, we did a post both on Facebook for a company, and in Germany, we were really, really pleased. We got nearly 9,500 people reached, and we got over 1,000 post clicks, which was, we were really ecstatic about that. We posted the same thing in Indonesia, and the numbers were just off out of the roof. I mean, 371,000, nearly 20,000 post clicks, and so on. So that that engagement level was just phenomenal in those mobile first markets. But if you look a little bit deeper down, it's interesting to see what that means. The blue and the red in this case is that engagement. How do you react to it? And you can see that in Indonesia, the top charts there, they're very, very strong, whereas in Germany, much more muted. But the request to quote, the conversions, it's, download the data sheets, which would indicate more sort of buying, it's actually much more similar. So we know, for example, that it takes roughly 3 to 4 times as much engagement in Indonesia as it does in Germany to get very similar conversions. So again, this is a difference of market, a difference then of strategy, and of end results and of goals between these two markets. Just as an example. Just to sum up, then, some of the best practice that we have is really, again, set your goals and choose which platforms are worth your resources. Less is always more in this case. Don't spread yourself too thin. Know your buyer persona, know their journey. Your international buyer persona is different than your domestic one, and it'll probably be different in different markets. And obviously have the right localized website to act as your localized springboard. With that, I'm going to turn back to Samantha quickly to talk about also help for Florida SMEs and help for Florida companies. Samantha.
Excellent. Thanks, Susanna. So this real quick, this is just a case study from a company that actually began the website localization process with us in this COVID-19 era. And it was because Advanced Super Abrasives is actually a very face-to-face company. That's how they do the majority of their business. A lot of handshaking, a lot of taking out to lunch and that sort of thing. But now with socially distancing and limited travel, they had to find another way to do business. And they decided to do the website localization and international online marketing route. So definitely something to consider if your business has a large emphasis on those face-to-face meetings. So just diving in real quick on the 3 options for the Florida Online Global Program, and Michael kind of touched upon these in the beginning of the presentation. So the first 2 are about website localization, and the first option is option A, a 2-market expansion with a limited scope, 12 web pages and 2,000 words. At the end of option A, you'll have 2 websites completely localized for your top target markets. So for this example, you'll have one in German for Germany and one in French for France. These websites will be based off of your US site, but we will go through a whole localization process that we've talked about earlier, like proper domain names, local hosting, SEO, translation, that sort of thing. So by having these websites, they'll help you be found, be understood, and be easier to do business with in your top 2 target markets. The option A costs $12,000, but as Michael mentioned earlier, there is an $8,000 grant for eligible companies for SMEs. There are just 4 requirements. They're really easy, and I would be happy to talk about that in further detail if you're interested. Then option B is anything above and beyond the scope of work of option A. And so maybe your company is looking for website redesign, or maybe you want to add international e-commerce, or maybe you just want a larger scope. Then option B would best suit you. The budget for option B is completely dependent on the scope of work, but because of our partnership with Enterprise Florida, there is that $8,000 grant that can be applied to option B. So $8,000 will be deducted from the final budget. Then lastly is options. Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry.
I interrupt you if I may. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to launch a quick poll just to ask if anybody is interested in learning more about the Florida Online Global Programs as the option A and option B for the websites. If you have any interest in that, if you'd like us to get some more information to you, we could send something an email or whatever, and we appreciate your responses on that. It looks like I appreciate those responses. Many of you have answered. I'm just waiting for the last ones to answer now. But if you have an answer or question, we would be delighted to get in touch. And if you're thinking about it, but thank you so much indeed. I'm going to close that poll and hand back to Samantha. Again, apologies for interrupting you, Samantha. I'm going to close that poll.
No,
Wow.
it is so good. So option C is actually the option for international online marketing, and this is the only option that does not have a grant from Enterprise Florida. So just keep that in mind. But so we specialize also in international online marketing. So if you decide that you need help in this area and our free resources just aren't enough, we have a dedicated technical team that would help you grow internationally through search engine marketing, social media marketing, and reporting and analytics. And the budget is $1,500 per market per month. And we do have a recommended ad spend of about $900 per market per month as well.
Samantha, again, I'm going to launch a quick poll on that one too, just to ask if anyone is interested in that, if they want to learn more about that, if they have an interest, then would like to have more information, or that we can send them some emails or some information on how international online marketing works across global markets. And again, I really appreciate those answers. Thank you very much indeed. Looks to me like we're going to be, Samantha and team is going to be pretty busy out there. Right. Thank you very much for those answers. I'm going to close the poll, and I think it's really, we do have quite a few questions. I do realize that we've gone beyond our time. We wanted to sort of just leave, we will answer questions to you individually by email as well. I guess our final message in these trying times sometimes is just to be safe, be kind, be aware, and look after yourselves. With that, we have quite a few questions. Perhaps we could privilege the questions to Amber and Michael. Joelle, I know you've been looking at some of the questions coming in.
Absolutely, I have. Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, depending where you're based. We do have a lot of questions, so what I did throughout the webinar is try and group them and try and answer as many as possible as them. So apologies if you know exactly the question you've asked, but maybe starting from a question for yourself, Michael, that came in fairly early on during your presentation. If a company wanted to get the process started, should they call Enterprise Florida? Should they get in touch with IBT? How do we get started?
I mean, either is fine, but I would recommend that they would contact our local trade manager because they would be the one that would work with Samantha to package the grant application and to work you through the process. So I would answer contact our Enterprise Florida trade manager.
Okay, fantastic. And once again, the contact details will be on the presentation, and yes, will be shared with all of you. We'll send the recording out within the next couple of days, and they're also on the IBT Online website, I believe. Just leading on to that, I can see a lot of people asking about timing. Some companies have a product launch coming up. What is the timing on the localized website? Maybe Samantha, you could take that on if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So the timing for option A from kickoff call until website launch is about 3 months. It can be done in a little bit less if the communication is really good between your team and our technical team. Anything for option B can be a little bit more depending on the scope of work. So an e-commerce platform, a redesign, it might take about 4 months.
Okay, fantastic. That's really helpful. Thank you very much, Samantha. Amber, I've got a question for you as well. There seems to be a few companies that be worried about upsetting their distributors, or the balance that can be there. In your experience, do your distributor accept the fact that you write the content, or do you get them involved in the process? How does it work with you?
Yeah, for us, early on, that was definitely a concern as well, simply because our distributors had been doing things on their own for so long, and we were worried that they were going to view it as a threat, or that it was going to be the brand going direct, I guess, and eliminating them from the process, which was never our intention and still isn't. So how we combated that, when I mentioned that we share sometimes the analytics from the website, that really helped ease their nerves in the beginning, that we're showing them, okay, these are how many people that we are using our localization to directly to your site to help increase your sales. That was a big thing. And then also, we don't really get them involved on like a large scale, but sometimes just checking in and saying, hey, are you going to be present in a trade show soon? Is there a way we can use our localized social medias to help promote that for you? Or if we are launching a new product, we'll make sure that they get it and then, say, hey, do you want us to promote this new product that's now available in your stores? Sometimes also for Australia, for example, that's less of a regional site and more of a specific country site. So for them, we have the flexibility to put the link to their online shop in some of our blogs directly. And we've been experimenting with that from India too. So I guess in the beginning, it was a little bit of we were nervous about it. So were they. We stumbled a little bit. But once we really got on the ground and could show them that it's really a value to them, they really understood that after time. And now they look forward to us doing that for them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Amber. Hopefully this has reassured some of our companies that were having a few doubts there.
Right.
Michael, if I can circle back to you, I've got a few more questions that came in around, is this a service that will continue in time, or is just limited to the current situation? And I suppose related to that, is there a set number of companies that can apply for these funds and grants? And if so, how do you allocate? How does the allocation, is there a first come, first served basis? How does it work?
Okay, good questions. Yeah, it is. Depending on the program, with the virtual business matchmaking, it is a first come, first serve, based because the international offices do have a bandwidth as far as capacity. So that would be a first come, first serve basis. And typically we ask the companies apply for one at a time. So in other words, if you wanted a VPM for Germany, you would apply and do that one first, and then move on to the UK or what have you. So we do ask that they're done in individually, one at a time. And as far as the question, will these programs continue, post COVID? I would imagine that there's a good chance that some of these will. This is so new. We're pioneering such a new area with some of these programs. I mean, the website localization program has been around for a number of years. It's just as relevant today as it was yesterday, and it will be in the future. But the virtual business matchmaking and virtual trade shows, that is really too early to tell, to see what's going to happen post-COVID. I mean, ultimately, I think my guess is, depending on the results we see, it may very well continue beyond post-COVID.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Michael. I'm very conscious of time, but Suzanne, I hope I can squeeze a couple more in. I've got one that I'd like to direct to you, if that's okay. With so many options, so many markets out there, can IBT help us decide which markets and which platforms within that market to get started?
Yes.
Right,
yes, we can help you decide which market, and obviously we know which platforms would be best for which industries in each market. Yeah, without a doubt. I'm also conscious of time. Joelle, you've got one more question. How about that? One more to someone.
one more then. I'd like to go back to Amber with this one. It came in a couple of times. How do you measure return on investment? Tricky question, but hopefully.
Yeah, no, definitely. This is a tricky question because in like our US market, we're able to measure direct sales because we do have e-commerce directly through. So, you know, you make a post on Facebook, you connect it to your analytics and you can see exactly how many sales you have. For the international market, since we do send through a distributor, we measure how much, of course, the distributor is purchasing. If they are purchasing more, then that's a great indicator of the fact that our worker is actually working and we're helping them correctly and increasing our sales. However, we also are conscious to recognize that that's not the only indicator of if a project is successful or not. There's, of course, in international markets, there's so much that are uncontrolled, you know, weather, tariffs, pandemics, for example, just to name a few that we've dealt with in the past year. But also it's a measurement of, are the distributors feeling satisfied, and their feedback is also critical. So our key measures of investment is direct sales from distributors, number one. Number two is if they're saying that it's helping them and if the dialogue and communication between us and them is helpful and relevant. If not, we can pivot, and we have. And number three, our clicks and outbound clicks to our distributors is also something that we measure and we keep a very close eye on. Our websites have a where to buy page on there in which we list all of our distributors, and our number one measure of success is how many and can we increase the amount of people that are leaving our site by way of going to a distributor site. That's really the best way. If someone is so interested in our product that they are clicking on where to buy or a distributor's Amazon link or something, then that's the best indicator to us, is if it's actually working and if we're really engaging customers enough to transmit them into a sale. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Amber.
I'm going to wrap it up. We've gone past our hour. I apologize, everybody. We just had too much to say. But you will all get a recording of this, and hopefully we're here as well to answer questions at all times. We will answer the questions you put in that we haven't answered today. Now, I wanted to thank Michael and the Enterprise Florida team for allowing us this occasion and for reaching out to Florida companies. I want to thank my colleagues Samantha and Joelle for helping coordinate, present, get the content. And I really wanted a big shout out, big applause to Amber for taking time out of her day and telling us about the experience they have in marketing. Really fantastic. Thank you so much, Amber. Really, really fantastic. Really nice to see you as well. And we wish everybody good times, good trading, good exporting, good sales, good growth, and stay online. At least if we can't meet up for a coffee, let's at least all stay online. How about that? See you all very soon, I hope. And thank you again, Amber, Joel, Samantha, Michael.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
See you next
Bye.
time.
Bye.
See you next time. Bye-bye. Bye.